Since withdrawing from the right bank Kherson region on November 11, Russian positions on the opposite side of the river have come under increasingly frequent attack. As it did following Ukraine's successful strike on the Kerch Strait bridge back in October, Russia has responded with a wave of missiles aimed at civilian infrastructure. However, Moscow's dwindling stockpiles suggest that this wave, like the one that preceded it, is more symbol than substance. After advancing across large swaths of territory in the early weeks of its special military operation, Russian forces in Ukraine are now clearly on the defensive. Russia's military is broken, John Spencer, the author of Understanding Urban Warfare and a retired major in the U.S. Army, told Giotto. That doesn't mean that it's not dangerous. It can still engage in battles, but it is no longer capable of waging a large campaign. Not even 9 months after it sent its best troops into Ukraine expecting them to topple the Kyiv government in a matter of days, the purported second most powerful army in the world finds itself digging trenches along the roads leading into Crimea. How much more territory will Russia have to give up before it can establish defensible lines with the minimal forces it has left? He asked. Yes, Russia has announced mobilization, but combat power isn't just about the number of soldiers you throw onto the battlefield. It's about how effectively you combine infantry with a full complement of heavy armor, long-range fires, counter-battery capabilities, etc. In that sense, Russia's combat power has been severely diminished over the past 8+ months, Spencer added, at the same time that Ukraine's has been enhanced thanks to assistance from its international partners. That bridgehead, located on the western bank of the Dnieper River, was valuable as a potential launching point for future offensive operations against Mykolaiv and Odessa, which lie further west. The aim of Russia's southern campaign was to cut off Kyiv's access to the Black Sea, thus creating a landlocked Ukrainian rump state unable to access its most important trade routes. The Russian withdrawal from Kherson serves as an admission from Moscow that it no longer considers expansion along the Black Sea coast to be an achievable war aim. While certain circles expected Moscow to make an attempt to turn the city of Kherson into another Mariupol, the fact that Russian forces chose not to dig in did not come as a surprise to Spencer. Maybe if they had a full division of elite paratroopers prepared to die for the cause, Russia could have held out in Kherson city for long enough to leave it in ruins, but the urban terrain there simply doesn't offer many advantages, he said. Kherson is flat, there are multiple routes in, and there isn't enough density on the outskirts to set up a non-suicidal defense. Yes, Russia could definitely still strike Kherson with artillery from across the river, he added. But the lack of solidly defensible urban positions, combined with the lack of a truly motivated fighting force and the superior range of Ukrainian MLRS, multiple launch rocket systems, capabilities, meant that the Battle of Kherson was more likely to end in a withdrawal, as it did, than in a head-on collision. That withdrawal came just under 6 weeks after a September 30 Kremlin ceremony in which Vladimir Putin personally claimed the Ukrainian regions of Kherson, Zaporizhzhia, Donetsk, and Luhansk as members of the Russian Federation. Given the political circumstances, it appears as if the Russian decision to cede right bank Kherson was made sometime shortly after it promised that Russia and Kherson would be together forever, as multiple billboards in the city advertised. If you know that you're preparing to pull out, then it wouldn't make any sense to go through with the annexation, Dmitry Gorenberg of the Center for Naval Analysis told Jato. The decision signals a potential change in the Kremlin's decision-making protocol. Even before the so-called referendum, there were reports of Putin overruling his generals with regards to Kherson, Gorenberg said. Now, though, it looks like we have a situation where the military has the freedom to do what it thinks is sensible, even if it goes against the political aims of the Kremlin. Despite Russia's failure to execute anything approaching a successful offensive campaign in recent months, the events around Kherson demonstrate that the Russian military is still capable of organizing an orderly retreat. Even with Ukrainian HIMARS strikes making the bridges inaccessible, the Russians were able to remove most of their equipment, to evacuate the collaborators and any civilians who wanted to leave, and to save most of their troops, Gorenberg added. And it was executed on a timeline that was fast enough to prevent the Ukrainians from pursuing. Any potential Ukrainian effort to kill or capture Russian troops on their way out was also complicated by the nature of the terrain around Kherson city itself. In the weeks leading up to November 11, Ukrainian troops were reported to be taking heavy losses in their efforts to liberate frontline villages still under Russian occupation.